Hello everyone, welcome to another Stukent expert session. My name is Trevor Erickson and today we are excited to have Matt Umbro with us as the Senior Account Manager at Hanapin Marketing. This is Matt's second time on a Stukent expert session, and today he's going to be speaking to us on remarketing. Matt's going to share some of the cool things that he's done in his career, and so I'm going to turn the time over to him and we will get this show started.
Hello, my name is Matt Umbro, and I'm going to be presenting on remarketing today. I'm going to get into what remarketing is, kind of go over the basics, and then why you should care about it. So first, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm a senior account manager at Hanapin Marketing, and I also run the PPC Hero blog. So for all of you who are interested in a career in PPC, ppchero.com, everything PPC, we blog about PPC every day, so it's a great resource. I'm also the founder of the weekly Twitter chat, PPC Chat. So if you just go to Twitter and follow the hashtag PPC Chat, it's a community of PPC professionals all over the world that talk PPC, and the actual chat occurs every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm a conference speaker and frequent blogger. And I always like to include pictures of my pets in these presentations. So on the left is my cat, Dublin. On the right is a new member of our family, Newberry. We got her in February. So that's a little bit about me. So we're talking about remarketing, and the first item I want to show here is an image from the movie The Matrix. So in terms of the movie reference here, this image from The Matrix is when Neo sees the same black cat walk by twice. He claims he has deja vu, but as Morpheus tells him, it's a glitch in the Matrix. And remarketing is a little like deja vu. So let's take an example here. Let's say we go to Macy's.com and we look at the furniture. So we're looking at the furniture page, we see all the categories, and we look around. But then let's say we leave the site without making a purchase. So I go across the internet, and we pass along Google's display network, which literally consists of hundreds of thousands of sites that showcase Google AdWords ads. So I go to Us Weekly's site, and lo and behold, I see an ad for Macy's. I see this banner ad here talking about the big home sale and saving an extra 10% off. So instead of just a regular ad letting me know about furniture, I see this ad that speaks to the specific sale. And I remember that I had gone to Macy's and I was looking through the site and I was looking at furniture. So this ad reminds me and gives me an incentive to click back. So let's take another example. I go to this guitar site, sweetwater.com, and I look at a specific guitar. You can see it here. Again, I leave the site without making a purchase, and I go across Google's display network. Lo and behold, you'll see that there's an ad here for Sweetwater, and specifically the actual product I viewed. So not only is remarketing just showing static image ads like the Macy's example before, but the system can actually show you which products you viewed and then show you those images, the cost, and it includes a call to action button, shop now, and also some extra incentive for clicking, including the free shipping plus the plus free 2-year warranty. Finally, for my last example, I want to look at a shirt I saw online. So being the Back to the Future fan I am, and the year being 2015, I see the shirt's available, and I think to myself, that'd be a cool shirt, but I'm not ready to buy it, so I leave the site. But I go to Facebook, and the shirt I see and the text here is on the side of my Facebook newsfeed. And actually, it's also directly within the newsfeed as well. So not only am I getting remarketed to across the internet, but I'm also getting remarketed to in my Facebook feed, specifically for the products I viewed, And what many advertisers do is showcase both these static and dynamic ads for products. So in essence, what remarketing is it's a chance to win back these lost visitors. Someone comes to your site, whether it's a e-commerce site, whether you're offering services, whether it's an informational site. Essentially, you place a remarketing pixel on the site that cookies the user, and then as they go across Google's display network and Facebook and other channels that we'll get into in a minute, they can see the specific, they can see ads from that specific site. So as you'll see in a minute, it's important to stay in front of these lost visitors. You keep your brand in front of them, specifically for e-commerce, as these users shop online and look for specific products. Just the other day, for example, I was looking for a specific pair of shoes, and I must have visited about 10 different sites. And for many of those sites, as I was going across the internet, I saw remarketing ads that kept that brand in front of me. What it can also do is help you to upsell products and their services. So for example, maybe I'm looking at those shoes, but the offer also says, to get these shoe soles that will help keep the shoes lasting longer. And then remarketing can also remind past buyers to make a purchase. And the example here, one of the most common ones I see, is for products that you continuously need to refresh. So pool filters is an example. You maybe use a pool filter for a summer, and then you're going to need to buy one again for the next summer. Remarketing can trigger those ads after a certain amount of days. So for example, if you buy a pool filter today, and then 120 days later, you'll need a new one. A remarketing ad can show up reminding you after that 120 days to buy that pool filter. So the next item we want to look at here is really why remarketing is so important, backed up by stats. So looking at this graph, almost 70% of users abandoned their shopping carts. And that number, it dipped a little bit in 2014, but it was really at a peak over 70% in 2012. So when you think about that, that's almost 70, or that's 7 out of 10 users who add a product to their cart but then leave the site. And when we look at the reasons for that, 41% of visitors, according to this infographic, aren't yet ready to purchase, while 24% save products for later consideration. And certainly there are items that are prohibitive. Some sites didn't mention shipping costs clearly. They needed too much information. The shopping cart process was too complex. Certainly those are reasons why people abandoned their shopping carts. But as a whole, about 65% of these users didn't make the purchase because they just simply weren't ready yet to buy. And really, remarketing serves the purpose of keeping the brand and the specific products that those visitors viewed in front of those users as they browse the internet. In terms of remarketing setup, there are a few items to keep in mind here. So but before we get into that, but let's just talk about some of the different remarketing platforms available. So the one I'm going to talk about most today is Google AdWords. This was really Google was really the remarketing pioneer, starting it up about 5 years ago, and others have followed suit. You see Facebook, they have their native retargeting platform. AdRoll has remarketing. Bing Ads is starting their own remarketing, and then you have third-party vendors such as Criteo and Steelhouse having their own remarketing platform. So for something that started in Google, remarketing has definitely become much more popular over the years, and there are many different platforms to use remarketing with. The main thing, though, is that the essence of it is the same, and that you're adding a tracking code to your site in order to retarget to these visitors. So when we look at Google AdWords, we first begin with the actual interface. So when you go into AdWords and you look in the audience section of the interface, there's this remarketing tab which is available. And this is the tag or pixel that you put on every page of your site. So kind of like Google Analytics, this code goes on every page of your site. And what it will do is when visitors come to your site, it will start to cookie them and add them to specific audiences you create. And here's an example of how the remarketing code is live on a site. And for this remarketing code, you can put just the specific example in the code here has parameters for specific products and specific item values. So your remarketing code can be developed further to include the specific products, and it can also be attached to Google Analytics. In other words, you can create audiences based upon Google Analytics data such as pages viewed per visitor and average time on site. So let's talk about creating your remarketing audiences. So you're going to start with this screen here where you create an audience, and it will ask you to create the list name. It'll ask if the remarketing is done through a website or mobile app. And mobile apps are becoming much more important, but still remarketing is primarily done through websites. You'll create who to add to your list. We'll go into that in a minute. That'll give you the option to view any amount of combinations of how you want to create your list. And again, we'll give it an example in a minute. Excuse me. And you can begin by including past users who match these rules. And then finally, you can set a duration for your remarketing code. So the default duration is 30 days, but Google will go up to 540 days. And again, this is important when you want to set time frames for your remarketing audiences and potentially give different offers for various time periods. So for example, maybe you give one offer in the first 90 days and then a new offer after the first 90 days. So here are the options for that audience creation. You can see here visitors of a page, visitors page who did not visit another page, custom combination. So essentially you're doing URL targeting here. So because you have the remarketing code on every page of the site, you can create audiences based upon URLs. So in this example here, we're creating a blue shoes audience where users are cookied every time they visit a page that has blue shoes in the URL. So it doesn't matter, maybe there's 50 pages on the site that have blue shoes in the URL. We want to make sure that anyone who visits that page is in our audience. So I hit on it a minute ago, but we're setting this audience duration at 30 days. So in this case here, our audience name, excuse me, is blue shoes, and we're targeting anyone who visited a page with blue dash shoes in the URL, and we're setting that duration at 30 days. So they're going to be in our list for 30 days, and within that 30-day time frame, we have the ability to remarket to them. So one of the most common combinations, especially for e-commerce, that you'll create is shopping cart abandoners. This combination includes all visitors who add an item to their cart but don't purchase. And you can see here how we've done that. So we set up a remarketing list with a custom combination where we're targeting any of the audiences who added to their cart, and then we don't want to include any of the audiences who converted. So essentially how this looks here is we're targeting users who make it to the shopping cart URL, but don't make it to the order confirmation page, and we're targeting those users. And again, this is one of the most common remarketing audiences there are, but again, really the possibilities are endless with remarketing. You can target people who visit a specific category, but maybe didn't go to, didn't convert, or didn't go to another section. You can really get granular with your remarketing. So now let's talk about kind of the maintenance and ad creation for your remarketing ads. So remarketing started with about 9 different sizes when it first began, but you can see here that there's over almost 20 really different sizes your remarketing ads can be. Now it's important that you utilize all these sizes simply because each site on Google's display network utilizes different sizes. So one site might accept 240 by 400 ad formats, but not the 336 by 280 format. Whereas another site might accept the top banner, but not the large leaderboard. So whenever you create these image ads, you want to make sure to create them in all these sizes so you have the ability to target all sites. And here are a couple of examples straight from Google. These are some of the more common sizes: the 468 by 60 banner, the 728 by 90 leaderboard, and the 300 by 250 inline rectangle. These, again, these show up on Google Display Network sites, and these are what users who have previously come to your site will see. In terms of ad creation and showing your ads, there are a couple common practices that you'll want to make sure you implement. In terms of the always be testing, make sure you're always running at least 2 sets of ads against each other. This is kind of a staple for paid search in general. You just want to make sure you have at least 2 different sets of ads with different messaging or different variations that you want to make sure you're testing against each other to see which one does better. I'd recommend changing your creative at least once a quarter, and even more if possible, because users are seeing these images multiple times a day. So you want to have different images and kind of keep them ingrained so they don't get stale. Make sure you include that call to action in every ad. We saw it with the Macy's ad, we saw it with the Sweetwater ad, but tell users what you want them to do. It's not enough to just show them to remind them that they've been to your site, but tell them exactly what you want them to do, whether that's to buy a product now, to get more information, or to contact you. And then finally, just make sure you're utilizing all of the sizes for the most exposure. Again, not every site accepts different sizes, so especially if you retarget on sites that are extremely relevant to you, you want to make sure that you have the specific ad sizes. So going back to those blue shoes example, if I want to target a running site that only accepts the 336 by 280 and the 250 by 250 sizes, I want to make sure I have those so I can target on that highly relevant site. And then once you start running remarketing campaigns, you can actually see where your ads are showing, and you can see the data related to it. So in this case, you can see where this client's ads have been running and what the stats have been. You can see the clicks, the impressions, the click-through rate. You can see the conversions as well. You can see all of that information to help you optimize. And upon reviewing this information, you can exclude specific placements. You can ultimately create new display network campaigns that target specific sites that are doing well. But all the data is here to see how the account is performing. And then finally, I just want to get into frequency capping. So your remarketing ads will show, by default, they don't have a cap on impressions, so you have to make sure that you set one. And why this is so important is because users potentially can see your ads on every site they go to, and there's a certain amount of ad fatigue and resentment toward the brand if they see too many of your ads. So generally, I tend to set frequency caps at 7 impressions per day. But you should always be testing what's working. You can set these at per week, per month. If you want to be fairly conservative, you could do something like 10 impressions per week for each remarketing campaign. It's stuff you'll want to test, but you don't want to inundate your users with too many ads, because then they'll start to kind of resent your brand, and you definitely don't want that. So that's the end of the presentation, and it looks like we have a couple questions here, so I'll go to those. So the first question is 30 days standard for membership duration? And the answer to that is yes. So 30 days is really the most common option you'll see, and that's the default option Google gives you. And generally, especially with e-commerce campaigns, 30 days is a good sign. With a lot of products, users generally will buy within that 30-day time frame. Now, that's not always the case. I mean, if someone's doing a larger purchase, perhaps a mattress, or they're looking for furniture, that may be a longer time period. So maybe you set it for 60 or 90 days. And then, professional services, maybe you're looking for an IT service provider. And generally, companies that can take many months to do. So you might set the remarketing membership duration for 180 days. So you can play around with it, but 30 days is generally the standard that you'll use. And the second question we have here is, what should I expect to pay per click when running a remarketing campaign? So the answer to that is it really varies. Just like on the regular search network, it really depends on how competitive the landscape is. So if you're in a really competitive area, such as furniture or shoes or so forth, it might be a bit more. And again, depending on how granular you go for your audiences, just like how you would go granular for search campaigns by targeting very specific keywords, you could pay a lower cost per click, but it really depends on the marketplace. I will say, though, that generally you're not going to really pay. I found that the costs for remarketing don't tend to get as high as they do for the Google search network. You'll tend to pay less than that, but having said that, the cost will still vary. All right, so thank you for attending this presentation on remarketing. My contact information is here, so if you have any follow-up questions, just please let me know. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Matt. That was an awesome expert session on remarketing. Remarketing has been a very high in demand topic from many of our students and professors across the country. So we're glad that Matt was able to come on here and teach us a little bit about how to get into that, especially with e-commerce websites. So go give Matt a follow, tweet him, and show him some love there. And just want to say one more time, thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Trevor, and thanks everyone at Stukent.